Recording in progress.
Good morning, everybody. I believe we have a quorum, so I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. As the outgoing vice chair and in absence of the chair, I'll go ahead and kick us off with a call to order and ask Bonnie if you can please do the announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. This meeting is being held virtually.
Good morning.
Mr. Santos,
Present.
Mr. Sanchez,
Present. Good morning.
Mr. Oakham. I'll come back to you, Mr. Oakham. Mr. Green,
Present.
Mr. Harris,
Present.
Ms. Greenwood, Mr. Bernstein,
I'm here.
and Mr. Kehoe. Going back to Mr. Oakham.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Okay, great. And Mr. Kehoe, I have you. Staff participating in the meeting include Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, Assistant Executive Officers JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Investments Officer John Grable, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Senior Staff Counsel Frank Boyd and Fern Billingy, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu. Staff and managers participating in today's meeting include Carly Natoya, Kathy Delino, Irvin Wu, Cassandra Smith, Louis Gittins, Alan Cochran, Vincent Lim, Jason Waller, Ricky Contreras, Tamara Caldwell, Vicky Neely, Carrie Wilson, Hernan Barrientos, and Ricardo Salinas. LACERA's medical advisor, Dr. Glenn Arisman, is also joining us today, and legislative advocates from McHugh, Kopke, and Associates, Sherry McHugh and Naomi Padron. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you are ready to speak. And now we may proceed with the agenda.
Thank you. The next item of business will be our ratification of the officers, and item A. Before I can pass this on, we'll go ahead and need a motion and a vote for item A, which is a recommendation as submitted by Mr. Kryman that the board ratify its slate of officers for their term for the year of 2023 with Les Robbins as chair, Mr. Bernstein as vice chair, and myself as secretary. We have a memo dated December 19th of 2022. If I can please have a motion.
Move approval.
It's Keith. I'll second.
Moved and seconded, and please vote.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Harris. I'll come back to you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Okay, the motion passes with all trustees present.
Got it. And I will pass this now on to our new vice chair. Congratulations to all the officers and Mr. Bernstein. The meeting is now yours.
Thank you, Captain Kehoe. Thank you for your service last year and for this year. Welcome, everybody. Vivian stated it very well during the IBL meeting, but obviously we're all holding a thought for our new chair, Les, who is recovering well from surgery and hopefully will be back in full form shortly. But I will kick us off. The next item for the elections is the election of a member of the Joint Organizational Governance Committee. A reminder that Mr. Robbins and myself as chair and vice chair are already on there, so we are not eligible. Do I hear any nominations for this board's elected JOGC member?
It's Keith. I'll nominate Mr. Oakham.
Mr. Oakham's been nominated.
This is Vivian. I'd nominate Mr. Santos.
Mr. Santos has been nominated.
Mr. Chairman, I'm slated to be the vice chair of the BOI, so I should be automatically in this committee. So thank you, Vivian.
You're welcome.
Then I still only have Mr. Oakham as a nominee.
I will nominate Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez has been nominated.
Thank you.
Are there any further nominations? Can I Would anyone like to move to close nominations?
I move that we close nominations.
And without objection, nominations are closed. We will, according to our Robert's Rules of Orders, vote in order of the nominations. So the first nominee to get a majority will win the seat. And the first vote is for Mr. Oakham. So if I could ask Bonnie to call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
No.
Mr. Santos,
No.
Mr. Kehoe. Oh, sorry, Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
No.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham.
Aye.
I have 5 yeses and 3 nos. The motion passes.
So thank you both for standing for nomination. Mr. Oakham is elected as our JOG-C member. We now move on to our audit committee elections. We will be electing 3 members to the audit committee. And as a reminder, Mr. Knox is the TTC is an ex officio member of the audit committee, so he is not eligible for election from this board onto the audit committee. I'll open it for nominations.
Yeah, I nominate Mr. Kehoe.
This is Keith. I'll nominate Mr. Sanchez.
This is Kehoe. I'll nominate Mr. Green.
The nominees stand as Kehoe, Sanchez, and Green. Are there any further nominations? I would be happy to entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Without objection, nominations are closed. And since we have 3 nominees and 3 spots to fill, we do not need to hold an election. Mr. Rice, is there, so under declaration by the secretary, the outgoing secretary in this case, there is no need for a motion or a vote. And our audit members for the coming year are Mr. Kehoe, Mr. Sanchez, and Mr. Green. Thank you in advance for your service. So I believe that concludes ratification of officers and election of committee members. So we are now on to approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 7th, 2022.
I'll move.
I have a motion by Santos and a second by Knox. Bonnie, can we get a vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We are now on to public comment. I'm unaware of any requests from the public to speak.
We have not received any.
None have come
requests.
in, so we are on to our executive update. First, our LACERA All-Stars report, and JJ, take it away, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. This is the time of the month when we recognize our all-stars, the folks that have gone above and beyond, helping our members and helping each other. And so this month's all-stars are Beatrice Day, Percy Petroff, John Slattery, and Maria Calderon. And our rideshare recognition goes to Elsie Gutierrez. There was no web watcher. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now for the awards, Carly, Dr. Natoya, it's just Carly here.
Yes, great. Good morning. Thank you very much and Happy New Year. Today, I am here to honor the accomplishments of 24 staff members who have successfully completed the one-year core benefits training programs. At this time, we'll please ask the graduates to please turn on their cameras so that we can see them and begin to acknowledge them. Usually they would come to the boardroom, but our circumstances as they are, we're doing this virtually. So this training program was like any other because the training participants started and completed a hybrid, so on-site and virtual training program. The program was also unique because there were 2 cohorts at the same time. Class 1 started in January 2022, and Class 2 started in February 2022. Lastly, due to the high call volume, these training participants pivoted from training and production to working in the call center queue to respond to members. So it's been an amazing 12 months for them. The success of this program is a testament to LACERA's determination and commitment to service despite COVID-19 outbreaks, gathering restrictions, and working through technology upgrades. So it is also due to the efforts of a couple of stellar staff members such as Dana Brooks and Mary Arenas, who served as our lead trainers, the quality assurance and metrics team who supported the training class, and the staff members from benefits and member services who also supported the training program. So a huge thank you to them for their efforts and determination in getting this class properly trained and ready to be hired. So the Human Resources Division, Quality Assurance and Metrics, Member Services, Benefits, and Retiree Healthcare are pleased to present the graduates of the 2022 Core Benefits Training Program. So from Class 1, we have Valerie Calderon, Latoya Serran, Brian Durant, Samantha Garcia, Brian G., Keenan Holder, Daniela Mendoza, Vanessa Muro, Carla Quesada, Amy Saruatari, Jonathan Sosa, Brian Trong, and Joanne Valdez. From Class 2, we have Jessica Benitez Sandoval, Christopher Carlin, Crystal Castaneda, Walun Chu, Lisa Di Giovanna, Katie Duong, Rhonda Garcia, Lily Hai, Abraham Reyes, and Kenneth Rios. Additionally, Victor Wong started in February 22 and has completed the Retiree Healthcare Training Program. So to all of our graduates, thank you and congratulations.
Congratulations, and thank you so much for introducing us to the. We wish you all the best in your careers. Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment?
If I may, I'm just
Yes.
really super impressed and proud of these folks. They're already on the phones. They've been helping members. So a big thank you to everybody and congratulations. And we look forward to having you as long-term career members for LACERA as you grow with the organization. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful. We are now on to our CEO's report. Our CEO, Mr. Kryman, is attending to family business today. It is not with us. So Mr. Lugo will be presenting.
Thank you, Chair Bernstein. Good morning, trustees. And again, we want to reiterate that I appreciate Dr. Notoya as well as JJ Popovich in recognizing our 24 trainees, 26 new trainees. A few items. We also want to, as a staff, wish Trustee Robbins a speedy recovery. Look forward to him coming back, hopefully in the next month or so. But to Trustee Gray's point, get the much needed rest, Trustee Robbins. One meeting, officially, January rolls out our one meeting platform. To remind everyone, this is a platform that really is highlighting the user experience, not only for our trustees, but also our members, our stakeholders, as well as the internal operations it takes to run an agenda meeting. It's really a full suite of services. So any feedback from trustees as we go through this platform, go through this rollout is much appreciated. We appreciate the proactive approach trustees have taken to learn the platform and familiarize themselves with some of the functionality. So any feedback to Bonnie and Linda is much appreciated. Also recruitment, as you saw, we just closed out our first RBS class. We are in the process of now welcoming a new RBS class, hopefully by spring. We've done the recruitment. We have over 90 applicants that are highly qualified, and we hope to start the process of reviewing the applications as well as conducting interviews in the coming months. So we are, this class will get us to the point where we're gonna be hopefully within our member service operations fully staffed to allow us to staff other positions such as member outreach. A couple of other critical positions that we have outlined is the deputy CIO position is in full flux in terms of the applicants. Our recruitment partner, ELF, has coordinated applicants, and we hope in the coming weeks to start going through the application interview process. We also have worked with Alliance Resource Consultant to outline or issue our Chief Technology Officer, as well as our Information Security Officer roles. If you recall, both of these critical positions at LACERA are contracted positions, and we understand the need for us to move a lot of these contracted temporary roles into permanent roles. So we look forward to the applicant pool. I think so far we've gotten good responses, and those recruitments are actively ongoing on our website, as well as Alliance Resource Consulting canvassing, quite frankly, the nation. We also rolled out our satisfaction survey. So if you look at the member operations briefing, or excuse me, the CEO dashboard, there's a couple of key metrics now highlighting satisfaction surveys from our members. So as they call into the call center, they are presented with an opportunity to provide feedback in terms of their service delivery. So that point of information is captured now. We'll be reporting that out moving forward in our dashboard as it relates to our satisfaction survey. We're also going to be doing that for the outreach initiatives, both for our virtual counseling as well as our in-person counseling. And then on the personnel side, Bob Schlaufeld, currently our contracted Chief Information Security Officer. Today is his last day. We were informed about a week or so ago that he's transitioning to a new role out of state. Bob has been with us for about 2 years. He really stood up a lot of our information security framework and process, as well as a team, and really maturing LACERA's information security posture. Thankfully, with his assistance, we will not skip a beat. We have a strong team that he's built. We have Matt Behrens that will now assume that role temporarily. So we fill the information security officer role that's actively being recruited. But we want to thank Bob for his service, as well as really building up a pretty mature information security office or system within LACERA. So Bob is on the line. Bob, I don't know if you want to share just a couple of words.
No, I appreciate all the support I've received from both of the boards and all the trustees, the relationships I've built. It's been a good experience for me. Yes, I'm moving out of state. I've picked up a vice president of security services position with a private firm. But looking forward to it. I'm here in the office today with Matt, doing transitional work. He's a good leader in his own right, and I think that you're going to be in very good hands going forward and maturing the program. But thank you again for all of your support over the years.
Thank you, Bob, and the trustees, and we'll be able to meet Matt as he now transitions to giving the briefings to trustees as part of a quarterly information security report. So with that, Chair Bernstein, that concludes the updates. Stand for any questions.
Thank you, Bob. Welcome, Mac. And do I have any questions or comments from other trustees?
Mr. Bernstein, if I could just say thank you, Bob, for all your hard work. I know you brought a whole new level to the organization, and I appreciate the foundation that you've set here at LACERA.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. I see a hand up.
Thank you very much. Agree with Mr. Kehoe. Want to thank Mr. Schlaufeld for all your hard work, especially during the pandemic. And I know I had my questions, and you did an excellent job of putting the answers in plain language, things that we could relate to, but still understanding how important the work was that you were doing. So thank you and best wishes.
Thank you very much.
Great. Moving on then. Thank you very much, Louis. We are on to the item 7, disability retirement applications on consent calendar. And excuse me a moment. We are first looking at consent SCDs for safety workers. I have applications 861D through 8890 that can be moved on one motion.
I'll move them.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Kehoe, seconded by Mr. Harris. Bonnie, can we please get a roll call?
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Santos? Mr. Santos?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Mr. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
That'll be
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Kehoe.
Mr. Kehoe.
That's an aye for me.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you very much. We are now on to page 3.
Mr. Chair, on a point of information, may I? Bonnie,
Yes.
because you have the motion pending, and we're not able to look at the document that we voted on.
Okay. Can you see it now?
No,
No,
Yeah, my screen shows the voting, yes, no, recuse, absent buttons.
okay,
Okay, one moment.
which buttons?
Okay, are you able to view it now?
yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I apologize for that.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. I'm glad we got that resolved. And I'm glad that Bonnie can do it, because if we're leaving the technology to me, we're in trouble. We are now on to page 3. This is safety SEDs on consent, items 1552B through 1565B.
Move approval.
I'll second.
All right, moved by Santos and seconded by Harris. I'll take a roll call.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Yes,
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein. The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you very much. We're on to page 4. This is SEDs for general members on consent with one omission. Application 2484C, Hema Patel is being pulled at the applicant's request. So this is 2482C through 2488C, excluding 2484C.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Moved by
Second.
Santos, seconded by Knox. Bonnie, roll call, please.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
And finally, on page 5, we have 2 general member NSCDs on consent applications 4416 and 4417.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Santos, seconded by Knox. Bonnie, roll call, please.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
We are done with item 7, disability applications on consent. We're on to our general consent calendar, item 8. I am going to request that we pull item C for reasons I will explain in a moment, but I have no other requests to pull consent items. Are there any other consent items that trustees would like pulled before I entertain a motion? Happy to entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Knox, I believe, seconded by Oakham. Bonnie, roll call, please.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Harris, Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
Coming back to you, Mr. Harris. Oh, I see a thumbs up. Okay, very good.
Excellent. We are on to item 9, items excluded from consent calendar. So that brings us to what was consent C, the federal engagement visit with Congress. I'm supportive of it. I noticed a quirk, which is that for trustees who attend the federal engagement, it is an administrative travel and not counted towards our limited elective travel. For people who want to also combine that within CPERS, and CPERS would still count against the limit. And since CPERS is there and the travel would be the same, the hotel would largely be the same, it makes sense to me to encourage people who are going to federal engagement to also attend in CPERS. So I was going to recommend we approve this with the caveat that if people tie in CPERS to the federal engagement participation, it doesn't count towards the limit of 4 travel conferences during the year.
I will
That would be
second
my-
that.
And Mr.
I
Santos would
move
second.
that.
Is there any discussion? Bonnie, can we take the roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you very much. We are on to non-consent items. 10A is our AB 2449 teleconference meeting procedures, and Mr. Rice will be providing a presentation on that. There is a memo as well dated December 19th, 2022.
Good morning, trustees. This item relates to a piece of legislation, AB 2449, that was effective January 1, 2023, that provides a new method of less than a quorum of board or committee members to attend via teleconference. Teleconference being defined in this case in a way that's different from what we're used to. Teleconference is defined for this purpose as both audio and visual, audio and video. So there would be a need for trustees to be on the camera during the meeting, as opposed to just simply on the telephone. There are provisions in the statute for the number of consecutive meetings in a calendar year that can be attended in this fashion. There are limits in the statute as to the number of meetings, consecutive or not, that can be attended in a calendar year via this method. To invoke this method, a trustee must have just cause or emergency circumstances. Those are defined in the statute. They're in the memo that you have for this item, and I can go through those definitions as well as any other details about this statute if there are questions after I finish my initial remarks. The purpose of this item is to not only explain the statute and provide an opportunity for any questions, but also to invite the trustees to give direction on creation of a policy that would govern the allocation of these scarce spots. Again, only up to a quorum, less than a quorum. So four for the board and 2 spots on a committee. Excuse me, once it would be only one. Let me take a pause for a moment. It would be less than a quorum for the committee, so it would be up to 2 spots on the standing committees of the Board of Retirement. This issue will be only relevant after the COVID emergency ends, because the board determined back in September that we will invoke the COVID Brown Act exception as long as the COVID emergency is in place. So if we are to have a policy, it should be adopted in February. The memo that you have provides some suggestions for what the policy might look like. It could be based on simple board or committee consideration in every instance. It could be based on first come or first served. It could be based on chair decision in advance, or it could be based on a prioritization method similar to that we have for board officer selection. It could be based on another method that the trustees might suggest as well, although the goals of any policy should be first to give priority to ADA-based concerns, which is something that is directed by the statute. Second, fairness overall. And third, the need to make sure that at the beginning of the meeting, there is a quorum physically present in the notice location, which typically would be Pasadena. We can't have a situation where we have 5 requests, only 4 people present in the boardroom. That would create a situation where we have a meeting that cannot proceed. So our policy should ensure that we have a quorum present at the beginning of the meeting in every instance. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and entertain your comments and direction.
Mr. Keogh, I have one question. Do you have a question or a comment? Because I'd like to get my question out of the way if you have a comment.
I just have a comment.
Mr. Rice, can you just clarify something? Under previous law, if we're lacking a quorum, it doesn't stop us from having a meeting. It stops us from taking action. I'm just curious, how would it work in this situation if we didn't achieve quorum in the room? What happens to the people who are remote? Do we not even have an opportunity to meet, or can we just simply not take action?
If there's not a quorum, no action can be taken.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Mr. Keogh is first and then Mr. Knox.
Thank you. So I appreciate the hard work that went into this and the very detailed memo. So thank you, Mr. Rice, for that. My recommendation for this is to keep it very simple, which would be recommendation number 2, first come, first served, with the option of chair involvement. So the bottom line is, as requests come in, chairs, it gets approved. And then if it gets down to the wire, if we're looking at the 5th request or the 4th request, or the 5th request is an 88 issue kind of situation, then that's when the chair gets involved. We'll make some phone calls and try and work it out. And I think we go from there, because at the end of the day, if somebody says I'm sick and I'd like to attend and we tell them no, they're not going to show up to the board meeting. So then we're in the situation that we were just talking about, which is not having a quorum in the boardroom. So we really can't force feed this policy. This policy has to be something that works together, where if there's a child care issue versus somebody who's sick, maybe we can help out with convincing somebody to come in on the child care issue versus the person who's sick who physically can't be there. And the way we do that is simply going with the first come, first served, with chair discretion or chair involvement. I want to give it discretion. I'll just say chair involvement, and because it's ultimately every trustee makes their own decision if they're going to show up to the board meeting or not, and that has a direct impact on our quorum count. So that's my recommendation on how to proceed with this, and I think it keeps this policy as simple as it could possibly be. That's all my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Knox.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Kehoe. What I guess for those that are in person, then if we lose our in-person quorum of 5, then we're equally stuck, even if we still have 8 trustees, combined. So for the folks here in the room, obviously, if we have a long meeting, you have an appointment, that would need to be something that would need to be communicated in advance to the chair, rather than I think now where it's kind of a real time. You look at your watch and say, Chair Bernstein, I need to leave by 2 p.m. or something like that. Okay, no problem. But we'll need to be, better planners of things like that in the future. Question for Mr. Rice. At the bottom of page 3 of your memo, it talks about no more than 3 consecutive months of the regular meetings of the body. No more than 3 consecutive months or 20% of the regular meetings of the body. Are regular meetings then for this board just BOR?
Yes. So the 3 consecutive months and the 20% are addressing 2 different issues. And it's interesting the way the statute was drafted with respect to these issues. The 3 consecutive months is for any meeting, regular or special. The 20% limit per calendar year is only for regular meetings. So it would be 2 in the case of the Board of Retirement, for example.
Okay. Yes, we'd need to make sure that's clear in the policy.
Yes.
Just because, when I saw this at first, I said, wait a minute, maybe I'm the numbers person, but 20% is not 3.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Rice, I have another question, and then Mr. Santos, which is just how do alternates fit in? If we have an obligation to have a quorum in the room and we have alternates in the room, does that get us to quorum? If have you thought about that wrinkle?
I actually have not thought about that wrinkle. It's something to consider. I think if an alternate is physically present and the trustee for whom they are alternate is on the line and either has an excuse that's not accepted by the board in the case of an emergency circumstance, or has not been selected through the method adopted by the board, then the alternate would create a quorum, but that then creates some uncertainty because of the not knowing whether the trustee on the phone is going to be, or on the video is going to be granted the exception or not.
So if you could dig into that a little further before February, it seems highly undesirable if we're in a situation where we're effectively telling the non-alternate, please hang up the phone so we can get our quorum. I don't think California legislature anticipated that, and it seems like it could happen. So that's just a thought. Mr. Santos.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Mr. Kehoe's suggestion, and also with regards to losing the quorum. I mean, it's something that we've been dealing with for many years, but typically it kind of has worked that a particular member says, I got a deadline at 11 o'clock, for example. And what we try to do is to move the agenda around to make sure that any vote that we need to take is done while the individual is present and before we lose the quorum. So, not happy as the chair to do that, but we've been dealing with that, and it seems that it's worked well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One quick question, Mr. Chairman, Alan, does this start in February or March?
It would, first of all, I believe we're going to be making a recommendation today, probably for a motion to come back here in February. And the California emergency, correct me if I'm wrong, staff is currently scheduled to expire on February 28th. So it would begin in March.
That's correct.
Thank you, Alan.
Sure. So we seem to have a consensus of opinion, but I don't have a motion at this point. If somebody would care to make a motion.
I will move development of a policy in accordance with option 2.
Second.
So moved by Knox, seconded by Santos. Any discussion? Bonnie, can we please take the roll call?
Knox,
Aye.
Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you very much. We're on to item 10B, reimbursement of trustee accommodation expenses. This is a recommendation submitted by Mr. Kryman. Is anyone making a presentation?
Yes.
Mr.
Trustee
Lugo.
Byrne. So Chair Bernstein, as outlined in the recommendation, also within the memo dated December 20th, this question was raised to Mr. Kryman about a month or so ago. We sought advice from both our legal as well as our fiduciary counsel. And specifically, Mr. Kryman would like the board to consider whether to allow reimbursement of hotel accommodation expenses for travel scheduled board and committee meetings to trustees who reside more than 2 to 3 hours, or as determined by the board, from the regular place of meetings, which in this case is Pasadena. 2 points of context before the board begins discussion is, one, this is presented to both the Board of Retirement as well as the Board of Investments, because both boards can decide to take a different path in terms of allowing this accommodation. Also, we looked at other systems that allow for accommodations specifically related to board and committee meetings. I know CalPERS does explicitly state within their travel policy that they allow for those reimbursements. When we looked at our travel policy as well as our educational policy, there wasn't an explicit statement in there. There is some interpretation for the CEO that he may have authority as well as the administrative travel. But again, as I stated, based on the advice of fiduciary counsel, it was prudent to bring this to each of the boards for their recommendation and insights. So with that,
Mr.
happy to
Lugo,
answer any questions.
I imagine this question will come. Can you explain why you're comparing our travel policy to a state organization rather than other county organizations?
Good question, Trustee Chair Bernstein. So for LACERA, appointed members, there's a policy that they have to reside within LA County, unlike elected members where there really isn't a residential requirement. So theoretically speaking, we can have an elected member live in Idaho and be a part of the board of retirement. So that's why we kind of compared it to CalPERS, where they have a kind of a wider footprint.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Santos is in queue.
Yes, thank you. Before I say anything, Bonnie, can you fix? I'm not able to look at this item. Okay, thank you. And I have some notes in there. That's why. Yeah, I made a request regarding this particular item, and as you know, given the prices, the housing prices in LA County. Many county employees have been forced to move out into the Inland Empire or Lancaster, Palmdale area. And on one of them, I moved to Menifee. It's about 45 minutes from my office in Pomona, but it will take me close to 3 hours to drive in to be at a meeting at 8 a.m. So I would like to encourage my colleagues on the board to support me in this motion. And also we need to keep in mind the retirees. You know, we have retirees who, like me, had to move deep into the Inland Empire, Palm Springs, Victorville, Menifee, and other areas in the Inland Empire. And so if any of those retirees decide to run for the boards as a retiree, we will be faced with the same issue. Also, with regards to the appointees, the new legislation, AB 1925, was took effect the first of the year, and what that particular legislation calls, it allows the Board of Supervisors to appoint anybody outside the jurisdiction. So it's no longer limited to the elected trustees. It's also possible for the Board of Supervisors if they need to appoint somebody outside the LA County area. So based on that, I move that the attendance to board meetings and or committee meetings be deemed administrative pursuant to the travel policy, and that LACERA reimburse trustees for one hotel night the night before the meeting for those individuals who live over 60 miles and or need to drive over 2 hours to attend the meetings.
Is that a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd second
Yeah,
it.
can I have a clarification, a simple clarification of that motion, please? Is this motion allowing somebody who lives that far away to stay in a hotel the night before the meeting? Can you clarify that, please, Mr. Santos?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I will support that motion, and I'll move it.
Mr. Kehoe?
Thank you. My recommendation is that we don't put the traffic limit, the 2-hour drive, or the mileage, and leave that on individual trustees if we're going to approve this policy. That way, A, staff doesn't have to police it, and B, it's on everybody's individual trustee to be able to justify it. There's some cases where people are traveling. I've personally have come back at midnight from LACERA related travel and had to drive home, and then had to drive past LACERA to go to the board meeting that I was going to go to in a few hours. So it'd be kind of silly to say that would be limited. So ultimately, we're all responsible for the administrative travel policy. It's all going to be public information. It's all going to be on our record on how often we do it. So my recommendation is to simply allow that exception and leave it at that.
I'm in agreement. Oh, sorry.
I would add one thing to that is that I think our staff needs to get a hotel. Okay, and there are a bunch around us that will give us some kind of rate for, our trustees to stay in that hotel when necessary. And I can help with that in Pasadena if you need.
Mr. Knox.
Thank you. Question, Mr. Lugo, do you know if any other county commissions, boards, et cetera, do something similar?
So we didn't canvass the counties. I know some of the ones that we did look at, and we think close proximity, Orange County, Ulcers, as well as Ventura County. I don't think they allow for that, but I would have to, we didn't do a full kind of survey of the other SERL systems.
What about our county? Because our county has multiple boards, commissions, et cetera.
It's a good question. We would have to get back to you. We didn't survey the various boards within the county.
Okay, thank you. I'll be voting no, and just a couple of points that I wanted to make. And certainly I don't mean to slight the distances that any of my fellow trustees travel, and I certainly appreciate the time and commitment. So setting aside that, I guess I just don't see it as the best use of our members' funds, me being one of the members. These are certainly voluntary opportunities that people choose to engage in. There's reimbursement of mileage. I don't know that we need to get in the business of putting folks up the night before. I like the idea, as Mr. Kehoe indicated, of a special instances where travel is aligned. I think that absolutely makes sense, and we can be considerate of that. But as Mr. Santos pointed out, our employees live all over the place. I have employees in my department that live outside of LA County, and I'm very understanding of the impact of their commutes on their personal situations and the like. But we are not reimbursing their mileage to transport to work. We are not setting them up in a hotel when they need to be there on time every day. I appreciate what trustees do and are committed to doing for LACERA, but I don't see this as something we need to institutionalize and bake in as just an option every month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. Ms. Gray.
I would only say that I am in support of this because I'm looking at not only the effect of the commute. Yes, we do get mileage, but that's not the point. We want our trustees, be they elected or appointed, we want them to be able to give their full mental alertness to these meetings and to the issues that we have to attend to, particularly as they relate to members. I too am a member. I would want anyone to be able to vote with a clear head, not sleepy, not tired, but I know how important, particularly when we come to our disability cases, we're talking about what happens to members in their lives and their retirement. And I think that it's important for us to all have a clear head. It's like today I'm not feeling well, but thank God for a leave and Tylenol and everything else. It's important. I know how important this is, and that's why I'm in support of this motion.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. I'm next, and then Mr. Harris. I'm sort of in the middle. I don't find an urgency to adopting this, and I would note that we're discussing details of commuting after 3 years of not having commuting going on. I think there is discretion for the chair, or in this case, the acting chair, to approve one-offs for under $1,000. I certainly would be happy to approve for February to allow this to be further developed. I just need to point out the staff report cites CalPERS, which to me is not the correct thing and seems to do very little digging in. It also doesn't actually provide a recommendation other than that we talk about this. I just would like to see this further developed. I think there's reputational risk when we spend money, and the fact that, as Mr. Oakham pointed out, there's no particular thought about cost efficiencies and how to implement this. Again, doesn't make me think it's a bad idea, but it makes me think it's premature to be supporting it. So if we do vote on this today, I will be a no. Although if we can adopt a policy that is more comfortable, I would be happy to support it. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with you and Mr. Knox. I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm leaning more towards Mr. Knox's position and yours. I just don't see the urgency in this, and I think the reputational risk that we run with this. I just think it does need to be developed more. I think Mr. Knox's points were well made as far as, we have a lot of employees that live a long way from work, and, we don't put them up when they have to come in during hours that may make more sense for them just to stay overnight. That's not to say that this isn't warranted in some circumstance. And I agree with Mr. Bernstein that, if there's these one-off situations that can be accommodated right now, if necessary. I agree. Comparing us to the state is really not applicable in this circumstance. So yeah, I'm going to vote no on this for all the reasons stated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Santos.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that at least with my department, we have a policy that they move the individual closer to your home. Like in my case, that's why I've been working in Pomona for so many years, because they want to make sure that I'm close to my home. And also with regards to the president, I mean, we have precedent. We have approved staying in a hotel when we went to view it. This the two different CEOs that we hired, and also the offsites. So if the argument is that we should not be spending the members' money, then we should not be staying in hotels when we do the offsite or when we hire the CEO. Like Ms. Grace stated, by me having to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and by the time I get to LACERA at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to be able to think clearly. So this is that also my health on the ADA, we can make an exception as well. I am close to 70 years old, and it is very difficult for me to drive in the middle of the night.
Sean, Alan, can I say something, please?
Mr. Oakham, I'll put you up. Mr. Oakham, I will put you in the queue. Mr. Santos, were you done? I'll get to you, absolutely. Mr. Santos, are you done?
Yes.
Mr. Green, and then Mr. Oakham, you'll be up after him.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Chair, for the recognition. I hear some really great points to this. I do think there's this direct correlation to the AB 2449, requiring in-person quorum. There's a lot of valid points here. It is, as Ms. Gray said, having a clear head for these important decisions being made, I think is crucial. I also agree that there is risk involved if there was some type of abuse that would occur, which, whether perceived or real, could potentially threaten credibility. So I'm conflicted. I do live outside of the county. I do have a long commute. I do have a safety position where I do have late nights, like Mr. Kehoe pointed out, and I think it's important to be rested and come in. I don't know if it's appropriate, but a friendly amendment or consideration of Mr. Santos' amendment with, further evaluating this and getting some of the questions answered that we don't have right now of what this could look like, and getting more into the weeds of that. And again, on the procedure here, I'm asking for some help from the chair, but would you consider a friendly amendment to form a committee or a group to analyze this further, potentially tabling it to address it at the next meeting.
I think, Mr. Santos, the question is for you. Do you wish to amend your motion or keep it as proposed?
I think I'm amenable to the suggestion by my colleague, Mr. Quijo, as well as Mr. Green, that it not be limited to my circumstance or similar circumstances, but also that it would allow in other trustees, like Mr. Green mentioned, as well as Mr. Quijo, that in that situation where they have to work all night, the night before the meeting, that they also be given the opportunity to utilize this exception. So I'm amenable to that.
Okay. Ms. Gray, are you also amenable to that? I believe you're the seconder.
I am.
Okay. Then just as a point of order for clarification, is this a request then to approve a policy or to bring back a policy next month to be approved? Because it's feeling aspirational, but not as specific as a motion generally is.
Well, my motion was to deem attendance of the board meetings as administrative meetings pursuant to the travel policy. If we deem attendance of the board meetings administrative, that will cover any expenses, and then we can just leave it there based on the need of the particular trustee in the case of the firefighters or the sheriff's department, and as well as in my case.
Mr. Oakham, you are up next, and then Mr. Kehoe.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Green. I think you need to defer this and come back to something a little more specific. But, you know, as I look at this, there are only three people I think that are involved, Mr. Kehoe, Mr. Santos, and I don't know Mr. Green, but I believe he lives out of the area also. And so we're not talking about a huge amount of money. I don't know if this will go over to the Board of Investment, but there are a lot of ways to do this that's not expensive. And I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. Looking at the travel expenses for last year, this is so minimal that we can't even worry about it. Okay, if we add up those expenses where people went, then this is a little bit of money. And Keith, I understand where everybody's coming from. I would make one recommendation that if they stay in a hotel, you get rid of the travel expenses. And I think we limit this to people, the three I just mentioned. So let's bring it back, have a discussion, excuse me, next month and make a decision.
Mr. Kehoe.
Thank you. I think, and I'll have to admit, I was definitely on the fence when I was looking at the recommendation. This is a very good conversation we've had, but I think we're making it more complicated than it really is. At the end of the day, Mr. Santos's recommendation is very simple. It's an administrative travel, and there's a full policy related to administrative travel. So either we're going to accept it or not, and there's no sense in bringing it back next month to decide on something that we know what the organizational risks are on it. No matter how we do it, there's risk associated. Every single one of our travels, there's risk associated with it. But what I'm comfortable in knowing is that we do everything that we possibly can to protect the members' benefits. We are very transparent. Our policy is very transparent. There's no hidden things going on. So in this, if a trustee takes advantage of this policy, then they would simply be reporting it as administrative travel. It would be on their log as administrative, but wouldn't count towards educational travel, but it would be there, and all the expenses would be public. It would all be available. There's nothing to it. So at the end of the day, we as a board have to decide, are we accepting of administrative travel for the purposes of attending board meetings? And I believe that there's a valid case for individuals to be able to take advantage of it depending upon each individual circumstances. So that being said, I don't think that we don't need a specific policy to this. I don't think we need to amend anything other than recommend that we amend the travel policy to allow for attendance of regular board meetings as administrative, as suggested. So with the amendment by Mr. Santos on having it simply be that, I would be in support of the way it is framed.
Thank you, Mr. Keogh. I don't see, I have Mr. Knox in queue. Thank you.
Thank you. And under that scenario, then, and maybe the question is for Mr. Rice, I'm not sure. Is the onus on Mr. Kryman as CEO to approve these and deem that they qualify, or is it just that the trustee is self-certifying that it falls under administrative leave or administrative requirements?
Well, the expenses for all travel, whether it's administrative or educational, is reviewed for compliance with the travel policy standards. It's reviewed by the CEO. It's also reviewed by FASD in the process of preparing the reimbursements and preparing the monthly reports. In terms of the justification for it, what the proposal as it stands right now is that it's simply going to be administrative travel eligible for treatment as administrative travel would be. So it would be self-policed by trustees in that sense.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see anyone else in queue. Mr. Harris, you popped up. Please, sir.
Let me play devil's advocate here. So when we have a retired firefighter or peace officer move to Coeur d'Alene and they get elected as the retiree rep, we're going to pay for their airfare and hotel every time we have a board of retirement meeting under this existing policy, if it is in fact adopted.
Can staff answer that question?
That is correct. Under
Slippery slope, my friends, slippery slope.
It feels like the second LA Times travel article writing itself. That was a comment. I don't see anyone else in queue. I think the motion is clear. I think the discussion has been thorough. Bonnie, would you please take the roll call?
Yeah. Mr. Knox,
No.
Mr. Bernstein,
No.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
No.
Mr. Oakham,
Yes.
So the motion passes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. And Mr. Green, welcome aboard and welcome to a typical conversation about anything related to travel and hotels. And a reminder that we are great at disagreeing and then getting along after. So that was a great discussion. Thank you all very much. The final non-consent item is a retirement date adjustment for former Supervisor Sheila Kuehl. Since she was kind enough to appoint me 3 times, I'm happy to move this motion that her retirement date be adjusted to December 6th, 2022. There's a memo dated December 20th.
I'll
I
second.
second.
I have Harris as the second. Bonnie, can we please take a roll call?
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are done with non-consent items. We're on to item 11, reports. Before we get into the state legislative update, we've been going for a while. About how long do we anticipate that report will be?
Thank you, Vice Chair Bernstein. I informed them that it would be 30 minutes for presentation and Q&A.
So if we have a 30-minute report, would people like a 10-minute break before we go into the report, or do you want to push through?
Yeah, let's have a break.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. Thank you very much. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Recording stopped.
sort of passed on some of the pomp and circumstance that accompanies a new session. However, this year was quite different in that the Capitol did have a little bit of a buzz as it welcomed all of the new members. In the Senate specifically, the Senate swore in 19 members, 10 of whom were new, including 3 Assembly members who moved to the Senate. Some of you may be wondering why 19 and not the full 20, and this is because there was one election in Senate District 16, which comprises the Central Valley, so Kern, Fresno area, that was too close to call at the time of the swearing in. Incumbent Senator Melissa Hurtado out of Sanger was ultimately sworn in, winning by only 20 votes out of 136,000. So her challenger, David Shepard, announced that he is seeking a recount, which is currently ongoing. Regardless of the makeup regardless of what happens with the recount, Democrats will continue to have a supermajority in the Senate. If Hurtado stays, Democrats will have 32 members to 8 Republicans, which puts Democrats 5 votes above the 2/3 vote threshold, which is needed to pass things like, increased taxes or urgency measures. Next slide, please. In the Assembly, all 80 legislators were sworn in, 24 of whom are new. Similarly, Democrats here will hold on to an overwhelming majority in the Assembly with 62 members, which puts them 8 votes above the 2/3 vote threshold. Next slide. Again, while the first day tends to be sort of more ceremonial, there were a couple of notable occurrences that I would like to go over in the Senate. Members of the Republican caucus unanimously voted to elect Senator Brian Jones as the next leader. He's depicted in that photo on the right, and he replaces Senator Scott Wilk, who's standing next to him there on the left. The pro tem is going to, keep her position. She has served as pro tem since March of 2018. Next slide. In the Assembly, things were a little bit different. Members voted on House Resolution 1 regarding the next speaker. As background, in November, after the election, there was a lengthy caucus meeting that took place on November 10th, in which Assembly Democrats elected Assembly Member Robert Rivas out of Hollister as the 71st Speaker of the legislative body. It was decided at that time, though, that he would assume the role on June 30th, 2023. And in the meantime, current Speaker Anthony Rendon would retain his position. So the December vote on House Resolution 1 memorialized that agreement of the Dem Caucus. Next slide, please. Assemblymember Gallagher on the Republican side will remain leader in the Assembly, and he is relatively new, having been elected leader February 2022. Next slide. On December 16th, Speaker Rendon did announce the appointment of Assemblymember Tina McKinner out of Inglewood as the chair of the Assembly Committee on Public Employment and Retirement. She, of course, replaces Assemblymember Jim Cooper, who left the legislature to serve as the Sacramento County Sheriff. Assemblymember McKinner is an LA-based member who was elected in a special election. She's relatively new, only having served since June 2022. Sherry and I do have a good relationship with her, as well as her chief of staff. Her chief of staff. I would note part of why I think the speaker sort of did this standalone announcement for her appointment was her introduction of Assembly Bill 1, which would allow legislative staff a choice to join a union and collectively bargain, which was a big point of discussion at the end of session. Then on December 22nd, so I apologize, it's this happened after I turned in the slide deck. On December 22nd, Assembly Speaker did sign all of the chairs as well as the vice chairs. And so at that point, we did find out that Assembly Member Tom Lackey was announced as the vice chair of this committee. I would just note that during LACERA's Sacramento visit last April, Mr. Kryman and Mr. Liu, as well as myself and Sherry, met with his office, and so introduced him to LACERA and some of what we do. Of note, the Assembly has only established the chairs and the vice chairs and not the committee makeup. And then you'll notice I don't have a slide for the Senate, and that is because the Pro Tem has not announced chairs or vice chairs. We've been told that they're waiting to maybe see what happens with this recount, and that they do plan on announcing the chairs and the makeup of the committees all at once. Of course, there could be a scenario in which Senator Cortese, who last session served as the chair of Labor, Public Employment and Retirement, could be reappointed, but that hasn't been formally established. Next slide, please. I'll just go over a couple of key dates. So as mentioned, December 5th was when the 2023-2024 regular session convened. Then actually today, the legislature is set to reconvene after the holidays. January 10th, so next Tuesday, the governor will submit a budget proposal. And then in terms of some key dates for bills, January 20th is the last day to submit bill requests to Legislative Counsel. And then February 17th is the last day for bills to be introduced. On this, I would just note that several pieces of legislation have been introduced already. Many of the bills do lack kind of substantive language and are sort of simply declaring an intent to do a particular thing or tackle a particular issue. These placeholder bills will likely be amended with more specific details. This is a pretty common tactic used in Sacramento as issues developed and get finalized. I think we're going to start seeing kind of things ramp up now that the legislature has reconvened and the holidays are over. Next slide. On the state budget, in anticipation of the upcoming state budget process, in November, the Legislative Analyst Office published a fiscal outlook. Under that outlook, deficit of about 25 billion was projected. So that's caused, folks to just think about how they're going to, overcome that or what cuts are going to be made. As noted, the state constitution does require the governor to submit a balanced budget proposal to the legislature by January 10th, so next week. While the first proposal is significant, I would just note that it is, sort of the first step in a long process that'll play out with legislative hearings and a revision released by the governor in May. That's known as the May Revise. The package, along with legislative adjustments, must be finalized by June 15th in time for the governor to sign the budget and the new fiscal year to begin on July 1st. Budget overview hearings will be scheduled in the coming weeks, with subcommittee hearings scheduled in March and April. I would also just note here that there has been some conversation, and Politico actually just did a story on this at the end of December about how several governors nationwide are sort of looking at how this economic downturn could potentially affect pension systems. Newsom's budgets have traditionally included additional deposits to CalPERS and the state's STRS, so the state's teacher retirement system. And he has obviously diverted a lot of cash into the rainy day fund in anticipation of economic stress. So when the governor was asked about it, his spokesperson released a statement, and I'll just kind of read it really quick. The spokesperson basically said, in every budget, Governor Newsom has prioritized strengthening California's pension systems and planning ahead for economic downturn to help make sure people get the benefits they worked for. The state is prepared for this. So that's some optimism there coming out of the governor's office. Next slide. And then of course, Sherry and I are happy to answer any questions.
All right.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Are there any questions or comments from other trustees? I don't see any. Thank you very much for that very thorough report. Much appreciated. And we look forward to working with you this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry, as well for being here. We are now on to reports B, C, and D, which are marked as for information only. And I've not had any requests to discuss them, but does anyone have any comments on any of them before we move on? Then we are on to item 12, items for staff review. Bonnie. Okay, items for future agendas from staff or trustees, item 13. Then we will go to good of the order. Bonnie, if you could call people, that'd be great.
Mr. Knox?
Good morning. Thank you. Looking forward to a good 2023. Congratulations to the new officers. Welcome to Trustee Green. Look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Ms. Gray?
Thank you. First of all, welcome to Trustee Green. Congratulations on your election and congratulations on being here. First day, first meeting, you hit the ball, you hit the ground running. So congratulations and thank you for attending. I want to give a shout out to our employee benefits section. Maritza Perez, she's an amazing, amazing counselor, and also Victor Tafoya for coordinating everything. I want everyone to know that our member benefits, particularly with our retirement planning, very thorough, very, very good. I'm very proud of them, and I'm looking forward to this new class being as knowledgeable as these two leaders are. So thank you so much. JJ, you do a great job pushing them. And thank you. Thank you so much. And lastly, once again, if Les is listening, because I know he is, even though he's recouping, and that's just the kind of guy he is. So if he's listening, look, please rest, Les. You know, don't push yourself. I know, who am I to say that, but don't push yourself, rest. We expect you to come back home. And to everyone else, Happy New Year, and it's good to see you all come back. Thank you.
Mr. Santos?
Yes, thank you. Happy New Year to my colleagues on the board as well as the staff. Congratulations, Mr. Green, in your election, and welcome aboard. And for Les, yes, I'm sure he's listening. I hope you feel better. Hang in there. Looking forward to seeing you very soon on the board here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sanchez?
Happy New Year to all. I just quickly want to share. I'll have to admit that I've been guilty of not wearing my mask as often as I should. And I say that because I tested positive for COVID during the Christmas break. I'm fine, thankfully, and I was the only one in my family. But I just share that to also express that, you know, we continue to have good policies to protect the health of everybody. And welcome, Mr. Green. Happy New Year, everybody.
Mr. Oakham?
I just, it's good to be back after a year's recess. I'd like to just give everybody a little update on the parade and the game. We had a great parade, the second year in a row after we were blank in 2021. The game was probably one of our best attended games in a number of years. And I'm looking forward to going to the TCU game, as I got a grandson who is going to have about 10 fraternity brothers staying at our house. I'm not sure where, but it should be an interesting experience. And I just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for the welcome and the kind words. And I know I've got some big shoes to fill in behind Mr. Kehoe and Mr. Pryor, and I just appreciate the support, and I'm looking forward to new ventures and participating in this. I really believe in what we're all doing here, and yeah, I just want to say thank you.
Mr. Harris?
Well, I too just want to welcome Mr. Green and welcome back Mr. Oakham. I do appreciate the fact that today we had a very robust discussion. I hope Mr. Green appreciates the fact we can disagree and not be disagreeable. That's one of the hallmarks of this board. We've always been very collegial, and I'm hoping in 2023 we will continue to be that. And I don't know any reason why we would not. But welcome, glad you're here. You're right, you got some pretty big shoes to fill. Will's was quite a guy, and we do miss him, but we are sure that you are up to the task, and you, Mr. Keel, will be working hand in glove on all the safety issues. So welcome to all of you. By the way, I'll speak for myself, but Mr. Knox might want to also offer it up. You know, my vacancy light is always on at my place, since I live less than 10 miles from LACERA, so I can give you a really steep discounted rate at the extra room I've got in front of my place in case you want to stop off there the night before, and I'll be more than happy to accept those checks from LACERA. So anyway, welcome to everyone and Happy New Year.
Mr. Kehoe?
Thank you very much. Welcome to Mr. Green, and welcome back, Mr. Oakham. And I am very happy to be able to serve another 3 years with everybody here. So I'm looking forward to the future, and we will thank you again for everyone. Sorry about that. My alert decided to go off right as I'm talking, but once again, thank you very much for welcoming back myself, and I look forward to working with everybody. Congratulations to all of the officers, and look forward to the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Louis Lugo?
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie. Again, as everyone stated, welcome Oakham, and welcome aboard Trustee Green. Also, I want to acknowledge the trainees and the hard work that we had mentioned earlier between JJ as well as the Quality Assurance Division and the lead trainers to get our 26 individuals on board. Also, as we talked about, I want to thank Bonnie and Linda for the rollout, the implementation. I know we're going through additional feedback, but I think this was a collaborative effort also with our IT department, and it's been about 6-7 months in the making, and so far it's been a seamless implementation and rollout. So I want to thank them for their efforts as well, and then also want to thank the outgoing officers and committee members for 2022, and look forward to working with new committee members and officers in 2023.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bernstein.
Thank you. Happy New Year to everyone, and welcome, Mr. Green. Welcome back, Mr. Oakham. I look forward to having Ms. Greenwood join us next month. I appreciate you entrusting me with the vice chairship for this year, but I very much look forward to Mr. Robbins, our chair, being back next month, so I can pass this part over to him. And I also want to thank Bonnie and Linda for their tremendous hard work on getting this PrimeGov system. And I thought the blips were incredibly small. I kept thinking about my daughter who loves Taylor Swift. If I said she worshiped Taylor Swift on a public forum, she'd be mad at me. But and how Ticketmaster could not handle selling tickets. And we have run a meeting with this new system, and it has gone well. And a lot of credit to Bonnie and Linda for all their work to make that happen. So, and Happy New Year if I didn't say that already. So let's move on. That is everyone, Bonnie? Yeah. We're on to item 15, disability retirement cases to be held in closed session. So if we could reorganize the room and the Zoom and get ready for that, please.